those days. You're live.
Hello, and you are listening to the Horizon Podcast, weekly show here where we just bring up random topic of discussion, get a roundtable, get everyone's opinion. And on this week, we have quintessential songs. The pitch of this was rock and roll. I can imagine some people have some varying music tastes, so we can just open it to songs that you think define a genre, generation, era, that kind of thing. I'll start off real quickly. This past year has been really into David Bowie for me for whatever reason, and his song "Life on Mars," which is exactly came out in 1971. Very weird. I always like songs that had like a bunch of instruments as orchestra, piano, the whole thing. And it's a song. It's about a guy who is very fed up with society. He doesn't like people and fighting all the time, like that kind of thing, which as we get closer to the election, that thing kind of does stick around a little bit more. He doesn't like the entertainment. He finds movies, everything boring, just really unsatisfied with the way society is. So he asks the question, is there life on Mars? Because he wants to get away from Earth and all this stuff, but he doesn't want to go alone. And I always like very like deep songs like that. So for me, that's what I came with this week. And open up. I know, Nick, I know you have a stellar one.
Well, that was a joke. Unfortunately, it is not Nookie by Limp Bizkit.
Why not?
That's the best question.
Just a little silly for the Martians might laugh at us. I'll be honest.
Let the Martians laugh.
But you can take that.
They'll stick it in my Anyways, I think a good example, and you can call me a little basic for this, I understand, but I think One by Metallica is just a good baseliner example if you want to get like a nice almost ballad kind of sound in the beginning. That is fair. Justice for Jason. He got edited out of the album. So unfortunate. The ballad, there's a nice ballad beginning, niceness there. And then it transitions into that nice, drum solo, everything like that. So, I think that is one of my ones I'll be throwing in there today.
Did you intentionally wear a Metallica shirt because you were going to say that?
No,
are you just the biggest Metallica shirt?
I'm not going to say I came here with an agenda today, but I may have.
Where's Ride the Lightning?
I guess I'll go next.
You just go around.
So we didn't really specify what kind of rock we were talking about, just rock as a whole. So I kind of delved more into punk rock, I guess.
Sure.
I chose You Say Yes by Destroy Boys, which they're a punk band from California, a punk rock band. But they just recently released an album, and I feel like this song really just covers what rock and especially punk rock is as a whole, with a lot of roots in kind of looking at misogyny and that sort of thing. The whole song is kind of about how women tend to fall behind in a lot of things in life and are victims of abuse quite often in comparison to men. And that's not to dismiss men's things or anything like that, but It delves a lot into those kinds of themes, which is where a lot of punk rock comes from, is in themes of oppression and that kind of thing. And I think it really covers on a lot of those topics as far as the lyrics goes, but also the instrumental is just fantabulous. But I mean, I don't know that much about music technically, so I can't speak much on that. I just like listening to it, and I think it sounds very much like a lot of other punk rock songs, but still has a uniqueness to it, to where it really can be seen as like, okay, this is what punk rock sounds like, but not sound too bland.
It's all music that just asks like deeper questions and stuff like that. That's I think like that's what rock was. It was rebellion music to start things off in like the 50s. So that just shows. You said it came out recently. If you go through the course of time, especially with the rock genre, it's at least you could say it's always been consistent, at least in some bands.
Yeah, on the same topic of rebelling, like my song is "Killing in the Name of."
Oh, yeah.
Little Rage Against the Machine. I grew up, rock to me is kind of warped. Like I've got younger parents. So like Metallica was never playing in my house.
Gotcha.
Like the earliest rock I had was Papa Roach and Linkin Park. And like
some new metal.
That's where new metal rock kind of thing. So I would go with Rage. And then my personal favorites, Meteora as an album by Linkin Park. I think it came out before I was alive. But
Maybe.
It's awesome.
Oh, there you go. You have like a go-to song off that thing?
That on that album, "Somewhere I Belong" is probably my favorite. But I grew up on them, and they're coming back.
You're a fan of the new singer?
Yeah, I don't mind it.
Oh, there you go.
It's neat.
So I originally thought this was going to be albums, and I went pretty intense into the album. So I want to run through them real quick.
I was saying he has a whole.
I started
got
with
a
a
book.
list of my
He did his
25 best albums. I'll go through the top 5 that I think are quintessential
Sure.
because it kind of goes into the quintessential song. So in terms of albums, I think are quintessential in no particular order. OK Computer by Radiohead, The Black Parade by My Chemical Romance, Ride the Lightning by Metallica, What's the Story Morning Glory by Oasis, Nevermind by Nirvana, 10 by Pearl Jam, Enema of the State by Blink-182, and more recently, Pilot by Hot Mulligan, the #1 hot new band, apparently. And then also A Fever You Can't Sweat Out by Panic at the Disco.
There you go.
So when I learned was songs, I really went down to 3. Also Zeppelin 5 is on that list. In terms of quintessential, when I think of rock, I think of Stairway to Heaven, and I think of Welcome to the Black Parade by My Chemical Romance. But for my quintessential song, when Welcome to the Black Parade came out, everybody said it was this song of emo rock.
Yeah.
And I think the song that really pushed what rock could be and shows everything creatively that rock could be and pushed a bunch of genres together is Bohemian Rhapsody by Queen. 6-minute ballad. It's operatic. There's rock. There's like 3 guitar solos. I think Freddie Mercury is one of, if not the best rock vocalist of all time. And Queen is my favorite band. So a little bias there. But I think if you want people to understand what rock can be, Bohemian Rhapsody is the song you have to listen to.
I like that.
And there you go.
I saw them live too with Adam Lambert.
I saw Hot Mulligan live with Panic at the Disco.
I saw Hot Mulligan live with Taking Back Sunday.
There you go.
Meredith?
I'm not the biggest like rap. I'm not the biggest rock. Like I don't listen
Sure.
to rock very often. Like it's definitely not my genre of music I listen to the most. But this is gonna sound so annoying of me, but everybody has probably seen the scene in Stranger Things where they play Master of Puppets. But
Yeah.
I will listen to that song like once a week now just because of that. So I will say, from someone who doesn't listen to it, if I'm like able to come back to it and re-listen to it over and over, I think that's a pretty good song.
Right.
I would
Yeah.
agree.
Yeah.
Great album too.
I think that
I would also agree.
I think that show did a lot for that generation.
In 80s
Oh,
music in
yeah.
general.
I would have never turned on an 80s song before Stranger Things, which is a weird thing to.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
I didn't want to like do like
the
that.
the
but-
remix of that Journey song that I can't think of the name of.
Don't stop believing.
Not Don't Stop
It
Believing.
was Separate Ways.
Separate
Yeah,
Ways.
Separate Ways.
It's really
Yeah.
good.
Great one. And then there was the Kate Bush song.
Yeah.
just
That was huge.
dominated
Run
radio.
Up the Hill.
Yeah.
It like went back up to like the top 5 or something like that.
Yeah.
And it came out in like
They played
83.
it on the radio a lot.
Literally.
Every 10 minutes.
Well, I feel like
Like,
that's the thing with music. It's just like, well, you kind of what you said about like, oh, I had younger parents, so it was more like 90s to 2000s.
I think that's what does it is when you've got something that transcends generations, that's like that's your core of whatever genre you're talking about or music in general.
And that's part of the reason I think Bohemian Rhapsody is so
Yeah.
popular because it wasn't popular initially,
Mhm.
and then it got more popular, and then Wayne's World happened, and then the movie Bohemian Rhapsody happened.
Yeah.
So I feel like everyone has heard that song.
It's become pop culture outside of music.
Yeah.
Right.
And Freddie Mercury's awesome.
Literally. I'm kind of on Freddie Mercury nowadays.
Farouk
Pretty cool guy.
Balsara, his real name. Fun fact.
What's his
I have his tattoo
Farouk
up here.
Balsara.
Spell it?
Because he's from Zanzibar. originally.
Oh, okay.
Oh, there you go.
I was like, that's a weird name to be
Then
from
he changed it
America.
to Freddie Mercury. Well, he's from the UK too.
Oh, my bad. Sorry.
With me, With me, my dad, like, he's a very rock head. So, but I did venture off eventually. But he would always play like Rob Zombie and like, so it was more like heavier metal, Korn, Chevelle, and like all these like older bands and stuff like that. But like 10 years and like all these different bands. But as I got older, I started to like get curious. So I ventured off and like I Taking Back Sunday and 30 Seconds to Mars. Dramarama. Like I have so many different ones, but they tend to be the same genre, which is pretty much like that old like good rock song that you hear in a movie, like Nirvana and like that type of vibe. But I would say a Quintessential is Take It Back Sunday. They're so euphoric and like they really just put you in the moment. Like they just put you like in a good headspace. Like there's nothing better than like listening to them and like having your windows down and just blasting. Like I love Taking Back Sunday. Their band just it does it for me. But most of their albums are pretty good. But my favorite song so far with them is You're So Last Summer. But
God, that's a great song.
it's a great song.
There you go.
There's another one of mine. I forgot what it's called, but A Descent or something.
You're So Last Summer. That's the first album, right?
I think so.
I think that's. I don't remember what it's called.
Yeah, they're from Long Island, New York. I didn't even know that.
Great song. Great band.
It's called A Decade Under the Influence is what it's called. That's my other favorite song from them. Yeah, they're just overall great band.
Awesome.
Well, I was gonna rep Welcome to the Black Parade. Sorry,
How could you?
but since that already got covered for me,
I apologize.
the modern day Bohemian Rhapsody. No, I'm totally happy to hear anybody else agrees with that.
Fantastic song.
I don't think I have a specific song to narrow it down to, but I feel like if we're talking quintessential rock, we should talk about the Beatles.
Sure.
I feel like we've gone a little while without bringing them up. I can't really narrow it down to one because they have like 6 eras in a 5-year career. But I feel like you can't really talk rock without talking about them. From taking like the 50s style of rock and kind of putting their own little spin on it, late 50s, early 60s, and then just like being at the forefront, I guess, of the evolution into what everything rock did came after it. Like I feel like the White Album, Sgt. Pepper, has just got to be in the conversation somewhere.
Are you more late Beatles work than you are early?
Personally, I'd say yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the early work is good, but I think it kind of like blends a little more into everything that was happening in that time period anyway.
Right.
And then I think they kind of stood out more once they kind of found their own voice and their own direction, and everybody grew as an artist a little bit. I will also say, for everything I just said, I also think they're a little bit overrated.
Sure.
I feel like they might not be the greatest, and I feel like they didn't invent everything. They were just kind of some of the people who did it first, but they were there first.
Well, it's
They
like
didn't stick to what everything else was going on. They kind of did their own thing.
all the early stuff was just straight up love songs, straight ahead like rock songs. Then you find acid and psychedelics, and you're like,
Yeah.
all right, now let's make something weird. And then it just stuck with people
Well, I
way
think
more.
we've kind of lost the plot on what rock is. If they were the first to do it and that's rock, then that's rock. There's no reason like Blink-182 should be in the conversation because they're not the same kind of rock. We've diluted so many different
The subgenres are everywhere.
and it's like we just call it all rock. So this is an interesting conversation to see what is considered rock and
right.
what isn't.
That's an interesting point because when I think of the Beatles, I think of them as pop music. I
Yeah.
don't think of them as rock at all.
Well, like if they're gonna be rock to me, it's like they're classic.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You're not rock, but you are.
Yeah.
Well, pop is such a vague, it means literally
Yeah.
popular music.
Yeah.
So like Metallica, you can call technically pop music because they've had all #1 albums their past 5 albums. So I'm like, it's just people hear like if it's not too distorted, not too heavy, and it's not like acoustic and song written like that, they're like, oh, then that's pop. It's just people just want to call everything pop, and in theory, everything is. Like if you
Yeah.
break down like what is
Or it's
successful,
alternative. And I don't like that. I don't
Yeah.
like that if you don't fit a certain thing that we've delineated, you're alternative music.
Everyone's
that's what they call grunge.
It's like, yeah, why are the Gorillas alternative if they're like they should be in the conversation of rock if they're
Literally.
gonna, you know. That's a good point.
Since
Just to piggyback off of that, I also think that people's like view of rock, it also really is the core, like when you're like how your parents, like what they give to you as well.
Right.
And that's what like feeds off of it. So also like my version of like when I think of heavy rock, when I think of rock, I tend to think of heavy rock.
Right.
When I think of rock is
Like Korn is rock to
Metallica,
you.
like Korn, yeah.
Yeah.
Like Korn, Metallica, like those heavy bands, Papa Roach, like those tend to like
Right, but
kind of
someone would argue that that's new metal.
Right,
I think
right,
you
right.
said new
Yeah.
metal. And like, yes, we're saying different things, but
Well,
we
and-
mean the same thing.
And it's
Right,
crazy
right.
too because you have like rock, and then you have like metal, and then you have like all your subgenres of metal too. You have like new metal,
Mhm.
progressive metal, death metal. Like it's
Just
just,
some-
Thrash.
and then everybody's particular.
Oh,
Yeah,
and
but,
they're
you know.
gonna die on their hill.
Oh yeah, people
You
have
better not
gatekeeping
call
music
prog
so
rock.
bad.
You better not call
What is
prog
prog
rock.
Don't mess with Tool, man.
Progressive rock.
Don't mess with Tool.
Tool is
Right.
Tool is awesome.
Yes.
Tool is awesome.
all I'll say is because Blink-182 and the Beatles were brought up in the same situation, same
That's
conversation.
never happened, by the way.
Which is hilarious.
Blink-182 could do Hey Jude, but the Beatles could never do Dysentery Gary. And I'll leave that there.
So true.
And we'll be on the same side. I'm over here now, guys.
All right, Bango.
In my opinion, the quintessential song in general, just like the quintessential baseline, like example of just good music is Starships by Nicki Minaj. I
Okay.
think that is the what everyone should look to as like the magnum opus of just
That's an awesome sentence.
That is the greatest thing. I love
Stoke, but I will go off on some Starship.
No.
You and me both.
Respect.
Let's go to the beach.
Kidding aside, I think the most important rock song that ever was made was probably Helter Skelter by the Beatles, because the backstory of that song is it is actually credited to be the first like heavy metal song.
Right.
The reason why it came out is because the Who was popular at the time, as the Beatles were too, and the Who told the Beatles that they weren't like as punk enough. They weren't like, they were basically stabbing them for like just being not as hard as the Who was. So Paul McCartney wrote Helter Skelter, and he tried to make the hardest song he could ever come up with. And that song birthed the new genre of heavy metal, and it's credited as that. Many people say that that's the very first ever written and recorded heavy metal song. So I think that song is very important to be like the father of like all the heavy stuff and all of the, because like the way rock worked was like even distortion in guitars was like an accident. There's a
Literally.
song that came out, I don't know the name of it, but it's very popular. You can probably recognize if you heard it. But a long time ago, there was a song that introduced distortion, and when it was released, it was not supposed to have distortion, but it did. And the singer of the song heard it on the radio with that distortion. He's like, "What is this?" So like rock has always been this like accident.
Yeah.
So and it's never started heavy. It never started heavy. It always grew from like Elvis shaking his legs. Like that was rock. That was like crazy. And then Helter Skelter came, and then it opened the door for things like Black Sabbath. It opened the door for Judas Priest. It opened the door for all those other bands that started making heavier stuff. So Helter Skelter is like one of the most important songs simply because of what it did.
An important note, though, to say on top of that, Paul McCartney cannot write Starships, but Nicki Minaj could absolutely
Yeah.
write Helter Skelter.
That's what we call a callback in the industry.
I think it's interesting too that you said that McCartney set out to write the hardest song he could think of.
Yeah.
Because like it just shows how the world's evolved. Because I would like you have Helter Skelter, which at the time was like crazy, and then you have like Raining Blood by Slayer or
Yeah.
Walk by Pantera.
Gojira.
Even like Enter Sandman, and you
Right.
listen to that and you're like, man, this is dark.
It's funny because like Helter Skelter is like Black Sabbath is like one of the very, very first like
Metal bands.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and they always looked at Helter Skelter. Black Sabbath looked at Helter Skelter like that was what they built their stuff on.
Yeah.
And Black Sabbath is like the father of like Metallica, and Metallica is the
Yeah.
father of
Usually,
It's-
most metal bands cite Black Sabbath as
Yeah.
inspiration.
It's interesting to see, like, you can look back on that now and there's a clear path of what connects to what, but I'm curious to know, like, what now, like, if Nicki Minaj is going to influence someone in 15 years the
She
way
influenced me.
it's true. I mean, yeah, maybe you're the next thing.
I did drop a song. I did
Is it
just,
sold out
before
arenas?
I got here, I uploaded a song to like the platform. So
The quintessential rock song.
it's
Is it?
fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, his own song is actually the quintessential rock song.
That would be a boss.
And everyone needs to listen to it.
Live performance.
Oh, that'd be so epic. Just take the tables out of here and get everything set up.
It moves like a set. Like it's just him.
He rises from the floor.
I think we can get fog machines in here.
Oh, yeah.
Or we're gonna set off the smoke alarm.
But who are we to say that starships?
People like rock knowledge. Where did the screaming, like screamo stuff come? Because I
Helter
personally, I
Skelter.
don't.
I mean, yeah.
Okay. Because like I don't.
Helter Skelter.
Just I don't understand. I didn't understand like where it came from because that's never been in my house or in my family or anything of the sort. I know like when I came across it, I was like, I don't get it.
Well, I think like the popularity of like screaming, I don't know for sure, but it may have started with like the Sex Pistols or like the British punk where you weren't singing.
Right.
They were just screaming words into
Yeah,
a
I
mic.
understand.
And then people are like, well, I can sing and I can do that.
Right.
And I think with Helter Skelter, like heavy metal really popularized like the growl
Yes.
that you hear a lot of people.
Well, a lot
lot
of
of
the
people
like
do.
older James like Brown songs had stuff like that. Like,
Yeah.
he kind of had like the raspy kind of vocals that like that's what most metal music now is. Oh, it may not be like growly yelling. It's just singing in a very raspy like tone.
It's cool to just see like one group have their 5 or 6 influences and you can directly tie it to them.
Right.
And you can compare and contrast 2 different bands that have the same influences and they sound nothing alike. It's interesting.
Ben?
Hello. For me, I would say the Don't Fear the Reaper.
Oh, yeah.
Blue Oyster Cult.
The more cowbell version.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Well, you have an alien were to show up, you just show them that guitar riff part.
Oh, yeah.
There you go. It's all you need. Simple as that. I mean, the whole thing's great, but that part is typically
Yeah.
quintessential.
One of the greatest guitar solos of all time.
Porter?
So I don't really know that many rock songs,
Sure.
but if I were to just pick one, this might fall more on like the heavy metal line, but one that I usually listen to is With Arms Wide Open by Creed.
Oh, there you go.
Respect.
Yeah, Creed's usually like whenever I think of rock or like heavy metal, Creed's usually the first band I think of, mainly because of the instruments that they use in it and also his voice in it, which I don't know how he does it for that long. I can only imagine how painful it is afterwards.
So it's come around. Like Nickelback and Creed, very hated at the time, and people are kind of like, no, there's some songs that you could find out that are actually pretty good.
Yeah.
It's come around full circle now.
Every Creed song is fantastic.
Oh yeah, there's definitely a.
I haven't done my
really
deep
good.
dive.
What's the lead singer's name? I've been trying to think of his name.
Scott Stapp.
Scott
Scott Stapp.
Yeah.
What a guy.
It's amazing that he.
You have his name tatted right here.
Yeah, there's some crazy singers, and they do it in a way where like they've mastered not damaging their vocal. I don't understand it.
Yeah.
That's
One
why I
guy
Use your diaphragm.
that reminded me, another great song, great band, all right band, Steven Tyler of Aerosmith.
Yeah,
He used to, his voice is destroyed
Yeah.
because after shows, he would drink a mix of whiskey and heroin
Oh,
that's sick.
after every show. And
That is rock music.
Yeah.
destroyed his vocal cords.
Part of a complete breakfast.
Yeah.
He was,
I don't know how he did it. I didn't know you could drink heroin personally,
That seems like a nice way to consume it.
but you
That's an
know,
awesome quote.
Yeah.
That's the title.
you finish a show, you know, just playing Dream On and don't want to miss a thing for however long their shows
But
were.
also think of just like how long he made it. Like his voice only got like destroyed too far. Like a month ago.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah, they
Just he
recently
went all that
canceled
time
too.
doing that to himself and still
How old is he?
soldiered on.
I mean, Ozzy bit the head off a bat.
How he is still alive
That
blows my
wasn't
mind.
intentional though, because a fan threw it on stage.
He thought it was fake,
That was fake.
But Ozzy also was coked to the gills.
I thought the media made it up.
No, it
No,
was
it's
100%
real.
real.
He did it.
Embellished on it a lot.
Well,
made it
like
seem
how they
he
say
was a
Rob
demon.
Zombie was a Satanist, and like that
Yeah.
he is like this, like his stuff is pretty intense. I won't lie.
Yeah.
But how do you know?
Ozzy Osbourne 100% bit the head off a bat.
There's photos
That's
of
fine.
and like a video of him. He did it to like a pigeon like a month later.
Well, he thought it was rubber,
Yeah,
and
right.
he bit it,
Yeah,
and then
didn't,
he
like,
tore its head
intentionally,
off, and he
bite
was
the
like,
head off. He was like, I'm gonna eat this bat. But then the media was like, he ate that bat.
He intentionally ate a bat because he
He ate
worships
down.
the devil and stuff.
Right. Another interesting character, I would say Fred Durst. Fred
Yep.
Durst.
He was like, instead of them being like he's a Satanist, people are like, he is the jerk of rock and roll.
Yes.
That's what he was.
you don't know if he was a jerk. It could have just been one of those days.
I think. Sorry. I think it's so interesting that people will always be like these rock artists. They worship the devil. They are Satanists and all this other stuff. Like, one, most of the time, no, they're not. And like, two, you have like bands like Flyleaf. I don't know if you guys know Flyleaf. Like, they're a Christian rock band. They don't sound like it, but they are. So it's like these people aren't all like evil and all that stuff. And even if they were, who cares? Be a Satanist.
Do what you want to do.
That's what I'm thinking. Exactly.
One rock
Creed-
band.
Creed's a Christian band too.
One rock band
And
that
so-
Yeah, Alice
I was told
Cooper.
people thought were Satanists was Kiss. I think people thought they were
Oh, yeah.
Satanists because one of them, I think, could make blood come out of his mouth.
Right.
That's just a cool party
Big
trick.
Gene.
Wow.
No, he actually could just do that on command.
Yeah, he could make blood come out of his mouth like whenever he wanted to.
When My Chemical Romance first got popular, everybody thought they were vampires.
That's a cool.
Gerard
that's a cool
Way
rumor to
is-
have.
Yeah, but-
He's kind of vampire.
They're all
Yes, he's
just
as
they're all
close.
just pale white boys.
They leaned into that one really hard.
Well, yeah, I mean, they-
Fighting those.
They had a song called "Vampires Will Never Hurt You." Actually, this is a quick tangent, but it's important. So, 9/11 and no, listen,
You
I
really
think I know exactly. what you're
9/11
talking
and
about.
50 Shades of Grey are directly related, and here's how. So,
I've heard this.
Gerard Way was he was a cartoonist, and he was on a train in New York to go pitch an idea for a show, and he saw 9/11 and was like, what am I doing with my life? I'm going to give music one more shot. And he made My Chemical Romance. From the song Vampires Will Never Hurt You, Stephanie Myers wrote Twilight. Specifically, like the vampire, I don't know his name, Edward? Is that the
Yeah,
vampire?
yes.
Edward?
Oh, no.
He's inspired by Gerard Way. And they were supposed to do a song, or they asked My Chem to do a song. They said no. Then Paramore wrote Decode, which is a fantastic song.
Fantastic.
But one person, I don't know who, I don't know the author of 50 Shades of Grey, wrote a Twilight fan fiction that turned into 50 Shades of Grey. So if Gerard Way would have never saw 9/11 happen, 50 Shades of Grey would have never existed.
So two tragedies happened.
That's a crazy line.
Yeah,
The line is crazy.
that's a true story.
I like that.
But I was gonna say every impactful band that's ever blown up never they always started off pissing off like the world
Somebody.
somewhere.
Yeah.
Right.
Or they were called like the devil. Like Elvis was thought of as like the devil when he shook his legs on TV.
Which is hilarious to think about in retrospect.
Yeah.
Now if you do it, you're weird.
You're a TikTok dancer if you do it nowadays.
Adaman, would you like to go?
Okay, guys. So rock considered to me is like a new foreign language. So I was learning, listening to you guys. I've never listened to a song like I'm like. There's a lot of rap artists that I listen to. They consider themselves as rock stars, and they'll like try to like come out like with these kind of metal beats. But I used to have a good friend in like middle school. She used to listen to Marilyn Manson. I don't know if he's considered.
Yeah.
It's more metal,
And
but yeah.
then her password to her computer, because we used to always watch movies, it was like BTS. So I don't know if BTS is.
BTS is not.
Yeah,
I don't know,
that's
sorry.
K-pop.
Korean
That's the
pop.
only thing I know about rock. I don't know. Like, I've never played the song,
Actually-
never heard it.
So who are some
I
of
will
the-
say some old BTS songs can be considered rock songs.
No,
You haven't listened to
what
old
is your
BTS.
quintessential
I haven't listened to BTS other than that one song
okay,
they did
so
with Juice
I don't know
WRLD.
if you guys are familiar with a rapper called NBA YoungBoy. He came out with a song and it was like he was calling himself. He was like, "I'm a rock star," and it was like a real loud guitar in it. So that's the only like rock song.
He
Did
must.
you like Lil
Is he
Uzi
newer?
Vert?
Yeah.
He went outside that
Did
day.
you listen to the second Pink Tape album?
No. I only listen to EXO.
This
to
is
a
her
lot.
introduction to rock music.
I don't know if it's
Well,
Trying to connect it.
I think it's an interesting point that, like, we don't really have rock stars. I wouldn't say, at least not
Yeah.
the old idea of
like for a minute he was considering himself like as a rock star. So everybody, like, it was this big trend. Like everybody was saying there was a rock star, and there was like a big brand that came out and it was called Rockstar, and everybody was wearing it. So it's like
Post Malone dropped a song called Rockstar with
Yeah.
Sway Lee.
I think Post Malone is a rock star.
yeah.
Doesn't he do more country
He makes
music
me
now?
want to
Yeah,
cry.
he just
He's
No,
actually
country
done like a
albums.
lot of different stuff.
If you've seen him live, he is like through and through a rock
Well,
star.
I think rock star is more of like an adjective at this point.
Yeah,
yeah.
Because it's not like, you're throwing a TV out of a hotel window.
I think that's a good point. Rockstar is like, it's hard to upset somebody. I feel like in terms of music industry, like,
It's pretty easy, I would argue.
well, like nothing is shocking. That's what I mean. Like, there's not as much
Sure.
that hits as hard as like when Rage Against the Machine says "F you." I won't do what you tell me. Like that doesn't phase us now.
It's more desensitized.
Well, on national TV,
on
that is
the
an awesome
BBC.
video.
Literally.
I mean, I would call like Kanye when he was at his prime. Like Kanye was a rock star.
yeah.
Or like right now, like Chapel Roan, like she's out
She's
here
probably the closest.
and she's just doing whatever she wants. And I think that's what a rock star
Right.
is.
because like there's like the video of her like swearing off like paparazzi.
Yeah.
I always said
I
this:
love that.
Rockstar is all. I think it's more behavior based because you always
Right.
hear like,
Yeah.
Steven Tyler threw a rock star tantrum. And it's him throwing a bass into a crowd.
Right.
I feel like with like you talk about like chaperone stuff. I feel like whenever because she's the first person I've seen, at least to my recent memory, to be like, I think like she had like a stalk or something. So she went on like the internet and said, "Leave me alone. If you love my music, basically, God bless you. Leave me alone. Leave my family alone." Like, and because people are too scared to do that because it comes off as being a jerk. She does not care. And you can love music, hate her music, but that kind of personality, that like hardness, iron skin kind of thing, I respect it. Like,
and it's cool. Like, it's,
Oh, yeah.
you're, I don't know, you're cool.
yeah, I saw a video. She was out doing some festival. I can't remember, but I can't remember. It was like in the pool, like VIP or like the other artists. And she does that. I can't remember. I like a few songs, can't know everything, but she does like the dance or whatever. And they weren't doing it. So she like stopped the song and like screamed, "You're not fun." Like to like all these people, like embarrassed everybody in the front row. It was so funny.
I've seen that video.
Mhm.
I love her.
Well, it's just like I always said this: music should be fun. Like I know like my thing was like, oh, I like stuff that asks deeper questions, and then David Bowie and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, it's just something to take your mind off it, something just to have fun, good time, and that's like what that kind of attitude
Yeah,
is.
and I think if you create it without like Chaperone, like she's not writing a song with what you think about it in mind.
Literally.
She's writing what is cool to her,
Exactly.
and that's what rock music is.
Boom.
Yeah.
So true.
Stamp of approval.
Mic drop moment.
Chaperone.
And also, like, I think everyone has their own
Wrap it
opinion
up.
of what a rock star is, like their own idea of it. Like, I think that a rock star, or maybe like a rock star band, is like somebody that owns the stage. Like, Five Finger Death Punch. When they get on that stage, they own it. Like
Yep.
like you can tell like the passion's there. That's what I feel like a rock star, rock band is. And another point, like, I think it's interesting that a lot of these rap artists are taking these rock beats. Like, there's a song out by Trippie Redd called Geronimo, and it's with Chino, the lead singer of Deftones, and it's amazing. But it's just very interesting. But I never visioned that NBA Youngboy would do it. But
And that's how Lil
or
Peep
even,
made a career.
or even Lil Uzi Bird. But I mean, I'm with it.
Quavo did with Lenny Kravitz.
Yeah.
They re-recorded Fly, literally. And on that note, thank you guys. If you're listening, if you've not heard of any of those songs, well, congratulations. You now have new music to check out. We'll even probably play some of them on Horizon Radio. But that's going to do it for the Horizon Podcast. Thank you so much for listening, and we will see you all next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Did it all for the Nookie.